Apple is dropping the ball on iPhone security. This story and more on your weekly cybersecurity news roundup. I'm Allie Diamond, this is Brewski, and you're watching ThreatWire. At this rate, everyone knows that OpenClaw is a security mess. Even CERT, essentially a cybersecurity advisory and response team in China, have recommended to handle it with extreme care, but its popularity has continued to catapult it into the tech zeitgeist and everybody wants in. Nvidia has released their own stack for installing OpenClaw, focused on adding security and privacy. The CEO of Nvidia announced this new project at Nvidia GTC, their annual AI conference. The project, called NemoClaw, uses Nvidia Agent Toolkit to optimize setting up OpenClaw via a single command with isolated sandboxing, better data privacy, and security to the agent. They say this isolation layer was what was missing from the average setup of OpenClaw. I need to know. Who here has tried OpenClaw? What were your thoughts on it? How did you ensure privacy and security? Should I try setting it up? Please let me know in the comments. A second iOS exploit has hit the Apple ecosystem. The first iOS exploit kit was discovered early March 2026 called Karuna. The Karuna kit targeted iPhones running any iOS versions between 13.0 and 17.2.1. The exploit kit took advantage of 5 exploit chains and 23 total exploits to achieve their infiltration. The Karuna exploit kit works the following ways. The user will visit a malicious website where a hidden iframe injection delivers the exploit kit. The core technical value of this exploit kit lies in the comprehensive collection of iOS exploits. The most advanced ones are using non-public exploitation techniques and mitigation bypasses. It starts by deploying fingerprinting of the device, determines a WebKit RCE exploit, and then a pointer authentication code bypass. Once the exploitation chain completes, the loader injects itself into the daemon running as root on iOS. It will then start to steal financial information and other user credentials. Apple quickly released a patch, but the discovery of Karuna got the team at Lookout cautious and curious, so they looked further into what else could there be. And this time, lightning did strike twice. On March 18th, Lookout Security published an article announcing their discovery of DarkSword in collaboration with Google and iVerify. DarkSword is another exploit chain, this time targeting iOS 18.4 through 18.7. The DarkSword exploit kit requires minimal and in some cases zero interaction to be deployed and enables full access to a target device. DarkSword moves fast. It collects as much targeted information as possible from the target device and then cleans itself up. DarkSword is a complete exploit chain and info stealer written in JavaScript. It leverages multiple vulnerabilities to establish privileged code execution to access sensitive information and exfiltrate it off the device. The kill chain begins with Safari encountering the malicious iframe embedded in a website. Once loaded, DarkSword breaks out of the web content sandbox and then leverages WebGPU to inject into Media Playback D. From there, it can craft kernel read/write access, which it leverages to gain access to privileged processes and modify sandbox restrictions, gaining access to restricted parts of the file system. What's the connection between these two? Both Karuna and DarkSword kits were found to be hosted on the same servers, which means they're most likely deployed by the same APT. Apple has released 2 advisories revolving around these 2 exploit kits, with the obvious recommendation of updating your phone to the latest version of iOS it can support. The most recent versions of iOS are 15 through 26 that are supported, but if your phone cannot upgrade to 15 through 26, consider using lockdown mode if available, which reduces the attack surface available. In August 2025, Google announced that it would start blocking sideloading of unverified Android apps on Android devices in September 2026. Ars Technica said, quote, Google intends to verify developer identities no matter where they offer their content, and apps without verification won't work on most Android devices in the coming years. Android is taking a small micro step back on this idea though. The Android makers received enough pushback from the community and decided to continue to allow sideloading of apps from unverified authors, and they point to the feedback that many Android power users want to continue to take what they call an educated risk. To alleviate this pressure, they're introducing the Advanced Flow, a one-time process designed to guide the less advanced Android user from being scammed into sideloading malicious Android apps. The steps of the new Advanced Flow starts with enabling developer mode. The user is then prompted to confirm that they are not being coached to download an application. Yes, they are literally asked to confirm if someone isn't guiding them through the process to sideload a malicious app. The phone is then restarted, and then a delay period is put in place. This will prevent scammers from taking advantage of the use of the concept of urgency. This way, power users will be able to install unverified developer apps, but prevents pressured users from installing malicious applications. Android ecosystem president Samir Samad discussed the logic for this period with Ars Technica. In that 24-hour period, we think it becomes much harder for attackers to persist their attack, said Samad. In that time, you can probably find out that your loved one isn't really being held in jail or that your bank account isn't really under attack. This verification process is being rolled out to users now and is present in Android as early as 16.1, released in late 2025. It feels like now more than ever, the industry is doubling down on securing mobile devices. Motorola with its partnership with Graphene, Google doing this. What do you think the impetus for this is? Why is the industry taking such a big step on mobile security? Other cybersecurity news you should know. A breathalyzer measurement company was hacked, causing their breathalyzer hardware to fail. This led to thousands being locked out of their car because they couldn't pass their installed breathalyzer car locking system. Co-founder of Supermicro was arrested for trying to smuggle $2.5 billion of GPUs into China. He has now resigned from the company. Last week, we talked about the fallout of Amazon and their aggressive push for getting engineers to start using AI. Devin FRBS replied with the following. AI tools are good when you give them tiny bite-sized tasks that are a pain to do manually since it writes faster. A small function, you already know what it should be roughly, but AI is faster. You still validate line by line, function by function, but the physical typing is much faster. It's also good for those, I'm pretty sure it should look like X. Then, sometimes AI gives good hints of things you forgot, but always keep it small. This kind of gets me to the point of how I actively use AI in the sense that I'm not asking AI to write all the code that it produces, but instead elevate my understanding of how to do things using code. So I may not know off the top of my head about how enums work in gRPC, but you know who does? AI. So I like to ask it some quick questions about how to do certain things for work, so then I'm always staying up to date with what's going on and staying up to speed and keeping myself accelerated as a dev instead of spending hours just trying to figure out how enums work in Golang. Kind of in that same vein, I generally only use AI to figure out really small things like in analyzing code bits that I'm unfamiliar with, because then I can learn from AI. I'm not trying to use AI to replace myself, because how am I supposed to continue to learn and grow as an engineer if I exclusively rely on AI? There's a lot of people out there that are saying that AI is going to replace us, AI is going to replace engineers, but now more than ever, we're kind of seeing a lot of companies take a step back on that because their engineers aren't pushing out good quality product. Thank you so much for watching ThreatWire for the week of March 23rd, 2026. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Once again, we are so close to the 1 million subscribers here, so we gotta lock in. We're about 3,000 people away, so please be sure to keep following us. I know I asked last week about content ideas for the channel of things you'd like to see, but y'all were too busy talking about the other stories, so I thought I'd ask again. Is there anything in specific you'd like to see here? Please let me know in the comments. If you want to find me online, you can find me everywhere at Ending with Ali. I've been posting at least 3 times a week over on my Instagram stories and on my Instagram posts. So it would mean a lot if you could go follow me there. And thank you so much for watching. Brewski says thank you so much too. Good luck, have fun, and don't get caught. Right? Don't get caught, Brewski. Are you gonna get caught? Brewski's favorite crime is arson.